Should you watch My Hero Academia Heroes Rising? I say yes. I just got done watching this really good movie. I'm going to say that. It was a really good anime movie, Shonen Jump movie. This one, I think, is far superior to My Hero Academia 2 Heroes, their first venture into the movie realm. The 2 Heroes really didn't feel like it needed to be a movie. 2 Heroes really felt more like a filler arc. I like 2 Heroes for what it was. It had a lot of fun with what they did. They did a lot more story. Less action than this movie. This movie, My Hero Academia Heroes Rising, was jam-packed full of action. 2/3 of the movie is action. The first third is setup, and that's about it. But the rest, once you get to the action, it is non-stop. There's just a few little hiccups, I would say, with this movie that I did not prefer that they did. They made some choices that I feel like they could have avoided. And I like when they take these anime movies that aren't necessarily canon to the story, but find a way to place them in a spot in the story that you could be like, okay, this happened during their summer break, or this happened during their winter break, or this happened between this arc and this arc, and it would fit perfectly. So if you want it to be canon, it can be, but it also doesn't need to be. It can be its own story, which this one is, and I feel like they tried with Heroes Rising to make it a story that can fit into the anime without affecting the story going forward. With 2 Heroes, I think they messed up by giving Midoriya the glove that let him use 100% of One For All, because now you question, why doesn't he get more of those gloves? They didn't really explain that she can only make one, or the material to make that glove is very rare. They never really said anything like that I noticed. And I think that was kind of the problem with 2 Heroes because of that. Also, this movie, Heroes Rising, could have been called My Hero Academia 2 Heroes. You could have flip-flopped the names and they would work both ways. It's kind of weird. I almost feel like this movie should have been called 2 Heroes because of the way it ended. Well, let's just start at the beginning. My Hero Academia Heroes Rising kicks off with a really cool car chase involving the League of Villains trying to get away with... It seemed like they stole, or they were trying to get away from some heroes because they had some kind of experiment in the back of the car. They had some kind of cargo they were trying to get away with. But they eventually get stopped by a group of pros and Endeavor, which was super dope seeing Endeavor and Dobby have a little flame battle. But turns out all the League of Villain people in the car were all clones, thanks to Twice, which really didn't have anything to do with the main plot. But the experiment in the back of the car, Nine, a guy named Nine, who was basically experimented on by the League of Villains, escapes and gets away from the pros, Hawks and Endeavor. And he goes and forms his own band of movie villains. There's this guy named Chimera, who I really liked, actually. He was pretty badass. He was this big buff wolf man with bird arms and a lizard tail. He was pretty sick. I almost feel like he should have been the main villain if they built it around him and like a gang of monster type quirk characters. I think that would have been kind of fun. Or maybe Chimera could grow into a kaiju, and that'd be the final battle with all the students of Class 1A versus this giant wolf Chimera kaiju thing. But they went with this guy named Nine. Nine is an experiment by the League of Villains who can store up to 9 quirks. The reason I don't like this guy is because he's kind of like a Diet Coke version of All for One. And they feel like that's why they put him in here. And I didn't like that. I feel like I'd rather have a very unique movie villain than just some Diet Coke Shasta Cola version, a lesser version of All for One. That's my only gripe with this villain. He's fine for what he is, but he can steal quirks like All for One. It's a little bit confusing. I'm not sure if he can steal them and then that's permanent, or if he could steal certain quirks and then delete them if he doesn't like them. He's also got a girl on his crew named Slice who can turn her hair into weapons, which is pretty dope. She was pretty cool as a female villain. Man, she would have been a sick main villain if they made her even more powerful than she was. But she's very ninja-like in her fighting style. And then finally, there was a dude named Mummy who could take inanimate objects and turn them into basically mummy zombies that he manipulates to fight for him. He was pretty dope. From there, we get to find out what Class 1A is up to during this movie. And basically, they are running their own pro-hero place of employment on an island with a population of only like 1,000 people. Their pro-hero on this island off the coast of Japan retired because he got too old and retired. And meanwhile, while they're waiting to find out who their new pro is, they're having the students go there and run their own agency until they fill that role. But it's also a really cool learning experiment for these kids to kind of understand what a day-to-day life is for heroes. And I completely get that. That makes a lot of sense. I think what didn't make any sense is they didn't send another pro with them to make sure that everything's going to be okay. I know this island has little to no crime because the whole time that they're there at the beginning of the movie, they're just helping like little old ladies cross the street. Danky is like charging people's tractors. Freaking Sato and Froppy are just out playing lifeguard at the beach. That's all basic shit. There's these two little brats though that are the main movie protagonists that are messing with our Class 1A heroes by like calling in fake shit like there's a villain, and then they fake a villain. The girl who is messing with them can make fake projections, and the boy can heal people, I guess. He can manipulate cells, regenerate cells, something to that effect. But regardless, they're messing with Class 1A while they're there. No big deal. Crying wolf in a lot of ways, which will come into play later. But I don't understand why they didn't send like Aizawa with them, because it would have been cool to see Aizawa in battle again. But I can understand them not wanting to do that because, you know, I'm sure he's got plenty of other shit to do back in Japan where shit really is going down. I can understand that. They don't want to waste his salary on a chill-ass job, I guess. But it also would have been cool if they had sent, like, All Might. If they had sent All Might or Lemillion with them, because Lemillion is currently quirkless, but he's still their senior as a third-year student. He could have gone and just ran the phones, just kept an eye on these kids, because they're first years. You would think they would need some kind of supervision. I mean, Bakugo wasn't even helping them with any of the manual tasks that they were doing, because he thought they were boring and a waste of his time as a future hero. It would have been cool to see Lemillion there, because he's just a fun, unique character, even without a quirk. And same with All Might. It would have been also cool to see him, since he's got no quirk anymore, really. He can't fight. It would have been interesting to see him just helping people get out of danger later when shit goes down. But regardless, there's no All Might. There's no Lemillion. It's just the Class 1A students. But the cool thing is, it's the entire class. In Two Heroes, they didn't have the whole class. They had a certain select amount of them, and it was really contrived why they even were all there. At least here, it makes a lot of sense why the whole class is here, and why they all would be involved in this fight. So, now you're wondering, how did the villains end up on this little island that really has nothing of value to them? 9, who's collecting quirks, powerful quirks, to help him rule the world. This is another thing I really didn't like about 9, is his goal was to basically take over and start a quirk anarchy society where only people with strong quirks are in charge, basically, and anybody below them are their slaves or they die. That's basically what I got out of his motive, which I really did not enjoy. It was not enjoyable. His motive. I feel like they could have given us a villain that had a really fun motive or connected to the story in some way. Like, make something up. I don't know, maybe a brother of a character that doesn't matter. Something. There's something there that could have worked out. But he just wants basic world domination with quirk power. And he's got a handful of amazing quirks that he's collected since we first saw him at the beginning of the movie. But he's trying to find a specific quirk, a quirk that'll help him heal his body, because he has some cellular degeneration, some type of disease going on, so he's very limited. He's very powerful, but when his cells or his body starts to hurt, he's got a limited amount of time that he can use his power at full capacity. So he's looking for a quirk that can basically heal him. And guess who's got that quirk? It's the little boy on the island. That's correct. So these villains, these 4 movie villains, head to this island with the Class 1A students, which I believe is like 6 hours off the coast or some shit. It takes at least somewhat around like 6 hours to get there. So they show up and they just immediately start causing havoc, while the rest of the students are just off doing random shit. So they just start destroying shit. They're looking for this little boy who's got the quirk they need to help heal their master, their boss, their leader, 9. What I remember specifically is Chimera goes up against a handful of the Class 1A students while they're also trying to get people off the beach. And what was really cool is Ojiro, Tailman, he got a really cool moment where he held him off. He held Chimera off while I think it was Tsukuyomi that went and got some help from the rest of the students that were back at their agency, their little makeshift pro agency. But he held him off. Like, he didn't he got his ass kicked, but he didn't get bloodied to the point where he couldn't fight anymore. I didn't know Ojiro had this kind of skill. I knew he was the karate tail hero, but I like that he got a moment. This dude is so basic. He never gets his ultimate moment, a singular moment. I almost feel like it would have been cooler to see Sato get this moment, because Sato shows up, Sugar Man, and he never gets any time on screen. He shows up using his Sugar Rush, which is supposed to make him like the Hulk, super powerful, super strength, and he gets basically his ass handed to him after he charges up his Sugar Rush. What is the point of super strength after you eat a bunch of sugar if even for 5 minutes you can't just be totally dominant? But this Chimera dude is a beast. This guy makes Todoroki look weak. They actually really made Todoroki, I feel like they scaled him down here. At one point, Todoroki was the top diggity dog in Class 1A. But this one, they really made it feel like Todoroki was at the same level as Ida, in my opinion. But they have a whole bunch of students fighting Chimera. At the same time, they have this villain Mummy who can create these mummy zombies attacking the city looking for this kid. And he fights Yuga Aoyama, which was super cool because Yuga, naval laser fella, never stopped twinkling, whatever the hell his hero name is. shoots his naval laser and slices some of these mummy creatures in half. I didn't think his laser could pierce things to that level. Maybe he's increased his quirk in the future in the manga, and they decided to use that here. But it is intense. He actually gets a couple of cool moments in this whole movie, but he's holding him off. Eventually, Denki and Red Riot show up, and they don't know what to do. I really wish they gave Denki and Red Riot the win here, because eventually Bakugo shows up. And of course, Bakugo has a lot of amazing moments in this movie. I don't think that he needed this win. Bakugo shows up. He gets wrapped up by the mummy dude and turned into one of his zombie things. But he escapes by self-destructing one of his grenade arms, which makes a lot of sense. It does. And he basically sacrificed his arm because I think it hurt his arm when he did it, which I appreciate that detail. And then he basically obliterates this mummy dude with a Final Flash style explosion, which should have killed this movie villain. But he survived, and he's actually not even in critical condition. But he looked like he eviscerated him. But, taking a back step here, I feel like they should have let Kirishima and Denki be the one to beat this mummy guy. Because later in the movie, Bakugo gets major moments of epicness with the main villain. So why not let the Class 1A supporting cast have an opportunity to get a win here? I know it's just a movie, but we should try and spread out the love here. And if they didn't want to do that, give us some more movie villains for these kids to fight. One other issue was in the first round of fights, the female characters really didn't get to do a whole lot except help get citizens out of the way, which is fine. But I think Ida was the one who was like, okay, all the manly men, you go fight the villains. All the women, help the women and children off the island. And to me, I felt like that was kind of bullshit, because a lot of the girls have some sick abilities that could be used against these villains. Well, regardless, they do all get a moment. I really appreciate the fact that this movie gives every one of these kids an amazing moment to succeed. While all this shit's going down, while Bakugo is taking out the mummy fella, while Chimera is fighting the rest of the boys on the beach, Midoriya is trying to save these little kids from Nine by fighting Nine. And Nine eventually wants to take Midoriya's quirk from him, but he can't, because Midoriya's got too many quirks, because it's the one-for-all quirk is a amalgamation of multiple quirks, which makes a lot of sense. And it also tells me that Nine has at least 2 slots open, because he wants this little boy's quirk, and he says that I can take Midoriya's quirk. So what it's telling me is he's got at least 7 quirks in his disposal. He shows off a couple of them. He can create weather storms like lightning bolts, tornadoes and shit. He can shoot death beams, kind of like Frieza's death beam from Dragon Ball. He can summon these blue dragons out of his back. And he can make like air shields. He can also see people's quirks with his eyes. He can see what their type of quirk it is. I don't know if he knows exactly what it is, but he can tell that Midoriya has a strength boosting quirk immediately after just looking at him. So he kicks Midoriya's ass, mostly because Midoriya is busy protecting these kids. And when he's about to finish the kid, Bakugo shows up. Like I said, Bakugo gets a lot of amazing moments, and he starts trying to go ham on this dude. But he summons one of those blue dragons and breaks Bakugo's ribs, which was insane. And when these kids try to double team him, I think he hits them with a lightning storm. But before he could finish the job, his body starts to fall apart on him. So all the villains have to regroup, except for Mummy, because he got captured. I assume Denki and Kirishima brought him in while Bakugo went off to help Midoriya. But he was eviscerated by Bakugo earlier. So the kids regroup, the villains regroup. The kids all decide that they're going to make a cool strategic plan to beat these major villains. Bakugo and Midoriya, like I said, are very badly beat up, broken bones, lacerations. But the little kids that they're protecting, like I said before, one of them has the ability to regenerate cells. So he heals Bakugo and Midoriya enough that they can continue fighting. They come up with a sick plan that I really enjoyed that involved every student in some way, shape, or form. Sato and Anna Voice, whatever, the animal voice talking fella that does absolutely nothing usually. They protect the people of the island inside of a cave. Shoji, he's protecting the kids himself, which makes I wish Shoji got more opportunities. Tentacool, I think his hero name is. He's so cool looking and so unique looking, and yet he never gets a major fight. Even in these movies, he would have been a cool person to go head to head with the Chimera. But their first plan here involves Momo and Yuga Aoyama. They fire his naval laser, but he supercharges it into like a super Kamehameha wave style attack. And Momo launches some cannon fire to split up the villains who are coming down the center of this specific part of the island they set up their fort in. Their plan is to divide and conquer. They're dividing the two support villains, and also they're going to try and get Nine to waste his quirks until he's out of his cells. Don't let him continue fighting. Good plan. They split them up, slice the girl with the weapon hair, who can also shoot it like bullets and use it like a sword. Ends up fighting Fumikage, Tsukuyomi, and Mina Ashido, which was super dope to see Mina get a moment to shine a little bit. She got to help basically by throwing acid, while Dark Shadow and Fumikage fight head-to-head with Slice, which was super dope. I'm glad they didn't just go, okay, all the women fight the girl villain. And then Chimera, I think he went head-to-head with like 4 members of Class 1A. Kirishima, Froppy, Todoroki, and Ida. And even all 4 of them barely stood a chance. They had to do everything they possibly could to wear this beast down. Because not only is he just super strong, but he can also shoot these hyper beams out of his mouth. I really think this Chimera dude could have been the main villain if they decided to hype him up and give him a gang of beast people. I think it would have been a better ending than what they went with this 9 guy. But the final part of this fight was my favorite fight in the whole movie. Every one of the members of Class 1A had to play their part to the T to beat this dude. Froppy used her tongue, I think, to wrap him up. Ida was coming in with some super speed to distract him. Kirishima used his unbreakable form to block the hyper beam that comes out of the Chimera's mouth. And then Todoroki had to get up close and use basically freeze his insides. He used absolute zero and freezed the beast from the inside out. There was ice shooting out of his mouth. The Chimera should have been dead, but he survived for some reason. I don't know why they had a problem killing these villains, because we will never see them again because they aren't part of the main story. So that fight was insane. If you don't want to watch this whole movie, watch that fight because it's dope as shit. Like I said, though, this was kind of like the side battle for Todoroki. They really didn't want to use him too much, I guess. Slice has a really cool head-to-head with Tsukuyomi, but he isn't able to beat her just yet. I think at one point Mina acided her hair and burns a big chunk of her hair off. She ends up pin missiling her thigh, pissing off Fumikage, and he goes full psychopath Dark Shadow because they're inside of a cave, just like he did with Moonfish back at the summer camp arc. And he annihilates this girl until the cave collapses on all of them, which is basically the end of that fight. I really like that they gave Fumikage a really cool moment here in this movie, because I don't think he gets enough time in the show for how cool his quirk is. He could really be one of the strongest members of that class if they let him, once he gets control of this Dark Shadow. Full control. Now, main event with 9. Basically, all the other students are fighting this dude as much as they physically can. I think Tape Arms, Uraraka, and Mineta create a avalanche with her abilities, with all their abilities combined, and they hold him off for the longest possible time. It was really cool to see them all get major moments, especially Sero. Sero never gets to do anything of note, really. He swings around with his tape, he wraps people up and whatnot, but nothing huge. And I feel like he got a lot of time here in this fight against the main villain of all people. Every one of them really got a cool moment. Even at some point, the cave where the people were started collapsing in, and Sato held a giant boulder with his sugar rush. That was his big thing. And 9 tried to drop some lightning again on Midoriya and Bakugo, who eventually joined the fray. But Denki shows up and absorbs the lightning because he's an electric type hero. Makes a whole lot of sense. And it was really funny because, he does his little Denki gimmick with the thumbs up. He's like, a little thanks would be nice. But this is the main event. We have Midoriya and Bakugo, and they do everything in their playbook to try and take this dude 9 out. And it was really cool. The animation is on par with the best parts in the entire anime. I don't think I've seen the anime this beautiful. They get beat again. Even after they waste this dude's energy out, he has these big canisters on his back that have some type of medicine or quirk boosting device. I don't know, but he goes full super villain and takes Midoriya and Bakugo out again. But this is where the movie, in my opinion, jumps the shark. It was really cool, and I'm not saying it wasn't cool, but to me it kind of ruins any possibility of this movie being canon or trying to fit it into the story in any way. Midoriya and Bakugo, who are beaten, battered, and broken, Midoriya decides to give Bakugo one for all by transferring some of his blood to Bakugo. And that's fine and all, but the way they explain we'll just continue. He transfers the blood. Midoriya and Bakugo both use one for all because Midoriya still has some embers of it, kind of like how All Might did for a little while. And they basically go on 100% full cowling. They look like Super Saiyans. Their hair's both spiked up. It was beautiful. They come in and annihilate this 9 dude. And I think at some point Bakugo even combines All for One with his explosion quirk, and he starts melting shit. It was insane. I almost feel like it would have been better if Midoriya stayed out of this final fight and they just let a supercharged, unhinged Bakugo eviscerate 9. And Midoriya being broken and out of quirk, just lay there and watch. Would have been sad and cool. They even had a really cool soundtrack playing while they were destroying shit. It was like watching a firework show. It was beautiful, in my opinion. But then the ending. they beat Nine. They beat Nine. They beat all the villains. The pros finally show up. All Might comes up to Midoriya and basically says, "Are you okay?" And Midoriya's crying, and he's like, "I gave my quirk, the quirk you gave me, to become the next hero, main hero, and I gave it to Bakugo because there was no other choice." And it was this sad moment that just, you felt it. But then you knew, in the back of my mind, I knew they weren't going to end this movie with that happening. They should have just went full bore and just decided, we're going to pretend like this is an alternate timeline. And this is where Bakugo becomes the #1 hero. And they just should have let the quirk transfer. Midoriya retires or something. And they could have went with that. But instead they go the stupid route, where Bakugo's passed out, and it turns out that All for One, or One for All, decided to stay with Midoriya and only partially transfer to Bakugo temporarily. And I think that is the stupidest thing. And then Bakugo wakes up with amnesia and forgets the whole incident. So dumb, just so they wouldn't have to ever bring this up during the show, which we all know it isn't canon anyway. So just let him remember it. Who cares? I came up with an idea that they should have went with. If they wanted to do this whole ending with Midoriya giving somebody his quirk, they should have either had All Might or Miro, Lemillion, on the island with the kids, helping protect these kids, helping to protect the main protagonist's children. Because if All Might was there, Midoriya could have transferred All for One back to All Might, and we could have got an epic fight between Nine and All Might, and got to see All Might fight once again with epic graphics, epic artwork, and it would have been sick to see All Might at full cowling again, and it would have made sense. He's used the quirk before, he knows how it works, and then at the end of the movie, he could give Midoriya some of his hair and transfer it right back. And it wouldn't have been confusing, and it would have made sense. My other option that I think everybody would have loved is if Miro was there. Quirkless Miro, who lost his quirk way back against Overhaul, he could have gotten All for One, or One for All, from Midoriya. And that would have been such a cool way to end this fight. You see Miro, the whole movie, he's just there being a funny character, protecting the civilians, not really doing any fighting. And then when all the Class 1A kids are down and out, Midoriya gives him the quirk. You see Miro go full cowling. Like he can already just use this quirk because he's trained his whole life to use his own quirk. Super Saiyan, you see him go full All Might. We finally get a glimpse of what would have happened if he got the quirk. And he just demolishes Nine. And then at the end, he transfers it back to Midoriya. But you couldn't do the transfer back with Bakugo because you didn't want him to give Midoriya his explosion quirk too. So that's why they had to do the amnesia gimmick. Which is fine, and it was cool, and I love Bakugo too, and I'd love to see him have this epic ending. But I think if they just wanted to do a transfer, just to see what another character would do with One for All, they should have picked Miro or All Might, and then it wouldn't have been so fucking confusing. But otherwise, the movie was great. All the villains get arrested except for Nine. Nine gets killed, like deleted by Shigaraki and the League of Villains, and they basically erase that experiment and say, well, that was a failed experiment, but we learned some shit. It was cool. It was really cool. I really enjoyed this movie. I just think that the weird amnesia ending left a sour taste in my mouth. And I was just kind of mad that they could have went in so many other directions and still had the same movie. Because the movie was really good up until that moment. I had no qualms, no problems. Everything made sense up until the point with the amnesia and the transfer of One for All. They could have found a way to make that more clean and fit there was a way. And 9 was kind of a lackluster villain in my opinion. They could have went a different direction than just making a carbon copy, a shitty version of one, All for One. But that's it. I really enjoyed that. You should watch this movie. I think it's on par with Dragon Ball Super Broly, which was a really cool Dragon Ball movie. Please like, share, comment. What did you think of this movie? Have you watched it? Let me know. Please subscribe to the Mr. Morfetto YouTube page. I will talk to you later.